welcome to today's panel section. So, we'll be on FHE, FHE in real life. So, tell us about yourself, what you do, and why you're here. So, let's start with Ilya.
Hi, I'm Nilay, founder of AlphaEngine. We are building the confidential layer for Uniswap. Basically, we are using to encrypt all your swaps on Uniswap, and at the same time, we are solving the problem that people get on Uniswap by taking advantage of the idle liquidity that is there, and we allow it to be deployed to various DeFi protocols, that thus ensuring that LPs earn higher yields. And all of this happens end-to-end encrypted, ensuring that your alpha is preserved and the best strategies are deployed on-chain.
Hi, I'm JB, founder CEO of Exosphere. We are providing confidentiality solutions for on-chain asset issuance.
So,
Hey, I'm Tom. I'm the head of engineering for Fhenix. What we're doing is we're building a platform for developers to use FHE in smart contracts. So we're basically, we support EVM compatible chain. We plug basically into any EVM compatible chain, and we provide encrypted encrypted variables, encrypted types, encrypted state for developers to use in their applications.
okay, Popeblack, I lead business development effort at Secret Network Foundation. So, Secret Network is a confidential layer for Web3, blockchain, AI, and applications. We provide confidential computing for Web3. So, let's dive into today's section. Uh, here's the question, first question. What made FHE finally practical? FHE has been in research for years, and implementation was often dismissed as too slow or impractical. We've heard that a lot. Until recently, everything has changed, and projects like yours are bringing FHE to the reward. So tell us, what does it feel like bringing FHE to the reward, to DeFi, to your applications you're building?
So, given the recent advancements in FHE, especially Phoenix's co-processor processing up to 64,000 encryptions and decryptions per second. So, with that, we have been able to leverage it to encrypt and decrypt the swap intents and the complicated trading strategies, which would not have been possible earlier. Like right now, we are live on 3 testnets, and we see that even if we do some really complicated DeFi strategies like leverage looping, which involve multiple steps of encryptions and decryption, it all happens within a few seconds, and it almost feels like whatever trade we want to deploy, it's completely confidential and happening in real life. So with this recent progress of like the increase in computation speed, what we believe right now is that in future we'll have a lot more projects using confidentiality, even those who need like real-time computation, they should be able to use it pretty soon.
Cool, 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 awesome. So, tell me, Tom. So, what is it like to build with encrypted data? Building applications where no one, not even the validators or Oracle, can see the data, which is really, really awesome. Imagine being able to query encrypted data without actually revealing the details of the data. So, also, what has been the hardest part when it comes to building with encryption so far?
Yeah, so I mean, FHE is becoming to be a very powerful tool to build encrypted applications. The well, FHE has multiple strong suits. I guess one of them is that, as you mentioned, it fits very well with like the blockchain and like like public execution narrative and this like movement, because you can essentially keep encrypted data, you can compute over encrypted data in the public without revealing any information, or like very little information at least. So it's a very good fit for public spaces and like public PMs, public execution environments, like blockchains are. And a little bit about like what you mentioned regarding the performance earlier. I guess it's essentially like an outdated stigma by now. I see it as, FHE has been in research for a long time now. And in the recent years, there's been like incredible progress, both in the algorithmic side, like making FHE much more efficient and much faster, and also big advancement in the hardware side of things, and making it much more efficient, much more acceleratable. So we're looking right now and at like, tens, hundreds, thousands of transactions a second, which is essentially like you can claim it's slow at this point. And we're looking at even like, thousands, 10,000s of transactions a second, maybe a couple of years from now. And it's essentially getting very fast, getting to exactly where we need it to be to support like high throughput applications and high throughput use cases. We at Fhenix already solved the decryption part. So the decryption part is kind of a big blocker in the space because it's at least half of the problem, right? Because you need to do the encrypted computation, but everything that is encrypted eventually will need to be decrypted. Users want to see their balances, their like their activity on chain. Of course, you need to kind of protect who gets access to the data and so on. But the acceleration in the decryption part as well is something very, very important. And we've been working very hard at Fhenix on that as well. We released a paper recently. We got to like tens of thousands of decryptions a second. So yeah, it becomes very, very real, very usable, and it's a very important part in blockchain space.
Okay, being able to compute over encrypted data, it's very, very important, and without revealing the details of the data. But despite the trend, the narrative towards privacy, government has been showing interest towards privacy. So, how do we actually balance confidentiality and compliance, which is really important, since regulatory body would want to have access to some certain information, and being able to do so without actually revealing all your information to everyone, but just for compliance purposes. Confidential DeFi sounds really powerful, but also challenging from a compliance and transparency standpoint. So, how are we tackling the need to prove legitimacy, solvency, and risks without exposing sensitive data? And does FHE make the process easier, harder, or simply different? So, what do you think about that, Jeremy?
Yeah, first of all, like I would define confidentiality as a point on the spectrum of privacy, where on one extreme you have full anonymity, which is like maximum privacy. On the other extreme, you have full transparency. Confidentiality is somewhere in between those two, and it's really suitable for cases where the goal is not to completely obfuscate what's going on. And that's particularly useful for the enterprise and institutional space. And in the enterprise and institutional space, the number one concern tends to be compliance. So it's key for confidentiality solutions to be as easily compatible with companies' compliance processes. And I think that's one of the beauties of FHE. I think FHE facilitates this and makes it easy for builders that are creating solutions, confidentiality solutions for the enterprise, for the institutional space, to be able to provide those institutions with the ability to using viewing keys, for example, to decrypt encrypted information when there's like a compliance or regulatory request or law enforcement request for their compliance department to not need to go through a lot of friction or behavioral change in order to adopt these kinds of solutions. Like we're at a very interesting moment today when I think that crypto is on the precipice of making huge gains in terms of acquiring more of the transaction flows of the enterprise and institutional world, and eventually becoming, making its way towards becoming default rails for money flows globally in the corporate world. So yeah, I would say that FHE is designed, very well designed to facilitate that and to make that as painless as possible.
Agreed. There should be a bridge between transparency and privacy or confidentiality. And users should be able to determine for how long and with whom they actually want to share their data with, which is very, very important. Nobody should have my data forever. There should be like a time zone, a limit to when they have access to the data and how they have access to the data, which is really, really cool. Traditionally, Web2 Web2 encryption is not like public. You just know that encryption happens in Web2, like whenever you send, receive funds, whenever you visit the healthcare and so on. But in Web3, do you think everyone should have access to encrypted file, or what does private or encrypted actually means in Web3? As we design the new era of encrypted systems, should privacy and encryption remain invisible to everyone, or should users be aware and they should be in control?
Yeah, so the way we try to tackle it in Phenix is essentially, well, we all started in Web 2, right? Web 3, we got into eventually. And we all used to basically seamless experience. We kind of used to expect some level of privacy from the get-go. Like, you don't feel it, you just know it's there. You know that when you are using a messaging app, no one else can see it. We now are a bit more educated, and we know that we want it to be more sovereign, more decentralized. We want the control and want it to be decentralized. But still, like the day-to-day user, like the normies, expecting the privacy from the get-go. I think there is still a path to there. I think we're not quite there yet. I think it will take some time for privacy to be, transparent in a way, like, or invisible, as you said, like just for users to not feel this friction. Today, when you use private protocols and private applications, there's a little bit of friction. Like, it's not like your regular, application. Same goes for honestly, all Web3 applications. We try to make it as seamless as possible and as intuitive as possible for end users and developers as well. Like, I think a big part of creating great applications is for the developers to have a great experience building them as well. It needs to be easy for developers to integrate privacy into their applications, at least as much as it's easy for the users to use these features. So we're trying to play on both sides of this field. Still, I think there's some way to go and ways to improve, but I believe we'll get there eventually.
Okay, so talking about scalability, cross-chain, and so on. At the moment, most privacy ecosystem or applications are kind of centered in a particular place, and or a single chain. So, but DeFi is rapidly growing. You could see DeFi on several public blockchain, but there's no sort of privacy in it. So, with messaging layers, aggregator, assets moving between space and so on, how does privacy and FHE in particular fit into this shift? Can confidentiality remain consistent as data moves across ecosystem, or it has to be centered on a particular chain? Or do you think there's a feature for cross-chain privacy?
So I believe there is definitely a future for cross-chain privacy, because once you encrypt a data and you generate a proof that the encryption has been done correctly, then it stays consistent throughout, regardless of what chain you are processing it on. And then, which means that, let's say, if you encrypt some data on a given chain, and then you utilize some messaging layers like maybe across or chain link CCIP, and then you just pass that data along with the proof, as long as the co-processors, like Phenix is already live on three testnets. So as long as the co-processors are holding the same key, they can decrypt it on the given chain. And this is what we are also utilizing at AlphaEngine. So we are already working towards enabling cross-chain confidential swaps that you can come to Uniswap protocol. Uh, if you want to swap USDC for USDT on a different chain, you submit the intent. We take that encrypted intent and pass it to your target chain via messaging networks. And what I feel is that as of now itself, there is scope for cross-chain confidentiality, and this will also enable a lot more composability across DeFi, because as we all know, the liquidity fragmentation problem, it gets like hugely solved if you can access multiple chains and their liquidities. So for sure, this is something which would be solved like pretty soon in the mainnet itself.
So at Secret, we also provide some sort of cross-chain confidentiality, which allows any applications or any chain to actually play around with encrypted storage payload, and also like seal deduction, private voting, which is not limited to a particular chain, but available to all users across Web3. And we all here believe this is privacy season. Do you think this is privacy season? Anyone? Okay, if we all agree this is privacy season, so what do you think is driving this renewed excitement in privacy? Because everyone is, saying it's privacy season, it's privacy, it's privacy. Do you think it's about the price, or people are actually, curious about privacy, interested in privacy, or truly value, confidentiality over their interaction, transaction on chain, or do you think it's just fueled by something else? Let me know what you think.
I'll go quickly. I'll go quickly. There are three reasons. Number one, I think in crypto, price usually leads narrative. Price goes up, and then the market tries to come up with a reason why it went up, and that creates a narrative. So I think like assets like Zcash, Railgun have really outperformed recently, and it has led to this strong narrative. I think number two, the tech has reached a level of maturity where it's actually tangibly there for privacy season to actually happen in terms of real applications and real usage. And number three is the trend towards enterprise and institutional adoption, which I think requires privacy as a core element, which makes privacy season, that brings that to light.
Agreed, agreed.
Thank you. That's all the time we have. Sorry.
Thank you very much. All right, so in just 30 seconds, can you tell me what I'm most excited about for FHE in the next year in just 30 seconds, each of you? 30 seconds each.
I'm excited for crypto to penetrate into the enterprise market and to win that whole area of commerce, which is bigger than everything we have on chain today.
Nilay.
So I'm excited about individual privacy, like users being able to protect their assets and like not getting doxxed on chain, and they access the entire blockchain while preserving their identity.
Okay, Tom.
FHE everywhere.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, everyone on the panel.